used to make a podcast called Podcast Zero. I used to make it for the SONM forum. Originally it was supposed to be a podcast with lots of contributors on it, but nobody else wanted to get involved, so I ended up doing the whole thing myself. Now most of this has been lost to the winds of time, but I have found a couple of damaged files and I'm going to piece them back together with some content from me now. So you'll hear what I talked about back then, and I might either fill in the blanks where the recording's gone bad or comment on it. What's provided here is from my 13th podcast, and I think you can work out the date from the kind of subjects I'm talking about. The Wii U was in, just brought a PS Vita. Okay, so here we go.
I'm going to talk about several things today. One would be Nintendo's recent decisions and my opinion on them. The other is my opinion on the PlayStation Vita, some of the software I've played on it, my experience of PS Plus. I'd just like to have a quick mention about the death of Jew Wario. And I'm also going to talk about the artist known as Prince suing his fans for bootleg recordings. And I want to talk about piracy in general as well. I have talked about piracy before on Podcast Zero, but it was such a long time ago. It's another one that needs to be brought up a few times, I think. I'm also going to quickly mention Tomb Raider, the Definitive Edition. First things first, I brought a PS Vita. I'd considered it for a long time. I'd got some money saved up. I was thinking about a PS4. I was thinking about some more 3DS games. And then the Vita hit a sweet spot. A price where I just felt I had to jump on board. Also, we're about to have a slimline version come out, which is going to largely replace the Vita, but it's got an inferior screen. And I wanted to get one while they'd got the nice screen in them. I've always been quite a supporter of Nintendo when it comes to handhelds, but lately some of their poor customer service and strange decisions have pushed me towards the idea of getting a Vita along with a few games I've seen. I started having a look around at first in curiosity, and then one day I saw that I could get a Vita with a 16 gig memory card and a voucher to download 10 games for £150. And it just struck me that even if I didn't play beyond these 10 games, that sort of paid for itself. The 10 games included in this bundle for download were Little Big Planet Vita, Little Deviants, Wipeout 2048, which are all full-sized Vita games that, demanded full price on their original release. The first thing I decided to download and play was Wipeout 2048. Now, I've played the PS2 Wipeout a tiny bit, but mostly for me I found Wipeout on the PS1, where I enjoyed it, but I always saw it as a bit of a copy of Nintendo's F-Zero. I loaded up Wipeout, not entirely sure what to think because I'd not touched the series for a while, and I have to say I was very impressed by it. The opening trailer was truly amazing. The best way to explain this trailer is it was a quick history lesson of how racing cars developed in the Wipeout universe, starting with 50s style racing cars, making it to the sort of cars we would have now in our own world, and then carry on slowly showing you them getting more and more futuristic until they are the Wipeout models. It left me breathless. I really didn't expect to be that pleasantly surprised. And I expected, well, this is a film, it's possibly been made on some supercomputer, crunched down into a video file and put on the front of the game. The game will get dodgier after this. But no, when I started playing the game, I found out the game was equally impressive. I won't go into too much detail as I don't want to do a full Wipeout review, but I really enjoyed it. I played around with the games that came with it for a few days, messed around. Little Big Planet was the same as the PS3 one, which is brilliant for a handheld. But then I remembered having talked to people about the PS Plus service, which I've talked about on my blog before. I've always thought it was a great idea, but by the time the PS Plus service got brought into effect, I had 200 Xbox 360 games. So the idea of having a rental service you paid for, which effectively is what I see PS Plus as, didn't appeal to me. But with a brand new console with few games, I thought, well, how much is PS Plus? I asked a few friends about it, and I found out that you go online, you pay for it, then look what the free PS Plus games at the time are. You click on them, you put them in your basket and purchase them for free, and then you claim them, and they're yours to play for as long as you are subscribed to the service. So this gave me the push to have a look. I had a look, and there was a few games that were on the edge of coming off PS Plus. I read into it, and basically if I was to buy it now and purchase these games as such, they would be mine for as long as I kept PS Plus, so I thought I'd make the jump before the games came off. The first things I downloaded were Mod Nation Racers, Guacamelee, Soul Sacrifice, and Gravity Rush. Now, Mod Nation Racers is essentially Sony's answer to Mario Kart, and it's a blooming good answer as well. It has all the racing power-ups and all of that you'd expect from a Mario Kart clone. But that's not it. It also decides to try and one-up Mario Kart in as many areas as it can. It has customisable cars, which remind me of a game you might or might not have heard of, Penny Racing, also known as Churro Q. But it's just brilliant. There's so much customisation. You'll find yourself spending as much time building and spray painting cars as you actually do racing them. Now, one of the games, Gravity Rush, I'd never heard of. From the name and the brief little look, I thought it was going to be some weird gravity-based puzzler. You know, shooting blocks in the air and spinning them or something, some funky Tetris. And then it turns out to be an anime game about a girl who has gravity-bending superpowers. You solve puzzles, you push enemies around, you sneak past guards, you race, you super slide. It's a really well put together game. Having seen its cover in the shops, I really don't think it does the game any favours. People need to know that it's this kind of crazy, brilliant anime superhero game. I don't know what I'd have called it myself. I'm not an artist, well, not that much. But I do think the game's been a little undersold. Well, anyway, back to the machine. The account on the machine, unlike Nintendo's account, is not directly tied to the machine. You have your account on the web, which you then pair up with your Sony devices, your PS3, your Vita, your PS4, and a record of everything you've brought is kept online. And if a game exists on both the PS3 and the Vita, then a lot of the time, if you've paid for it on one system, you can download it onto and play it on both, with no additional costs. I brought myself a few physical games that I saw going super cheap, but I've not played much of them enough to comment yet. But then I took a look on the PSN shop for download games, and I noticed there's an absolute ton of PS1 games on there that you can download, and most of them are around $3.99. That's $3.99 for a PS1 game that you can then play on both your Vita when you're out and about, and then on the PS3 at home. Compare that to Nintendo, who want you to pay £3.50 for a NES game to play on your Wii U. And then if you want to play the exact same game on their 3DS system, they expect you to pay £3.50 for it again. And this suddenly makes Sony look very generous, and it makes Nintendo look so greedy by comparison. When I was scrolling through all these games, I noticed an RPG which was never released in Europe for the PS1. It was a downloadable on PSN, and it was $3.99. It's a game called Art the Lad. Then I thought about it. What was the last N64 game I saw on a Nintendo platform which originally didn't come out in Europe? And it was Sin and Punishment, an N64 game. Now, Nintendo wanted £8 per N64 game on the Wii, but then when it came to the ones that hadn't been seen across here, they'd only release them in special festival times and tack extra money on because of that fact. So Sin and Punishment was £9. That's double the price of Art the Lad. These are cartridge-based games that don't take up half the room some of the PS1 stuff does. So I really can't help but feel Nintendo have been a bit greedy with their eShop. Overall, I'm really glad I decided to purchase a Vita. The games seem good, the Plus service is a brilliant idea. It helps you try games that you otherwise wouldn't touch. Because when they're free and you can download them and delete them at the drop of a hat, why not give it a try? If it's rubbish, you delete it. You haven't lost anything. Other than, well, your £5 a month subscription. But every month there's bound to be something you really like.
I still think the Vita's a great little machine, and I don't change my views that I had when I did this podcast in the slightest. I no longer play for PS Plus because I decided I couldn't afford Plus and Gold. The Vita ended its life pretty much just being an indie machine with downloadable games, but it was a nice machine. I still think they're worth picking up for playing about with, but it's great to listen back to this and hear just how much in love I was with my Vita when I got it. And I think all the stuff I said about the pricing of PlayStation Online games and everything is spot on. I think they really are fair with their prices, and I can't knock them in the slightest. Okay, so I'm about to talk about dealing with my ex's 3DS break-in. I just had to say that to start it off because the start of the audio is a bit clipped. Here we go.
Brought herself a Nintendo 3DS, the limited Animal Crossing version. A hairline crack appeared on the console. Despite the fact it had never been dropped or banged, she kept it in a hardened plastic case inside basically one of those laptop socks. And because of this crack, she took it back to Game. They agreed that it was a manufacturing fault and they swapped it for another one. Well, they attempted a system transfer in her absence and basically ballsed it up, deleting her NNID account, as they call it, off the old machine without having transferred the data to the new one. This meant that despite the fact she'd got a new machine, a Luigi 3DS XL in this case, which had no issues, she'd lost £50 worth of downloads. Game didn't seem to want to do anything, so naturally I phoned Nintendo for her. And the whole answer to it from them was, it was our fault. They shouldn't have returned it to Game. We should have returned it to Nintendo for an assessment. They can't do anything. Downloads are tied to your console. Your fault. Leave us alone. Well, I don't think that's a fair answer. What's the point in having downloadable games on your console where if your console breaks, you've lost it, and the company's not willing to do anything for you? I mean, there's proof through her online account what she's brought. They could give her a download codes to get it back, but they're not willing to. I mean, maybe this is the reason one of the reasons they're making a loss. Their customer service and download policies are well behind other companies. Your Microsoft and Sony IDs, the games you've got, are tied to an ID, not to a console. You can buy a new 360 of yours breaks, log in, download it, go through some simple processes to prove it's you, and bang, you've got them again. And then Nintendo have gone down this whole stupid Girls Club idea. I mean, Girls Club, really? Pushing pink DSs. Way to put feminist rights back, guys. Have you really got to sell things in this way? Is that the best you can honestly do? I was about to clap you for the fact that you've put Little Mac from Punch-Out into the Smash Bros lineup, and then you go and do things like this. Do you really want to be taken seriously? I feel sorry mentioning something so serious, but recently a little boy decided to commit suicide. He decided this because he happened to like My Little Ponies. He was vocal about his love for them, and people picked on him until he felt his only course of action was to commit suicide, which is deeply sad. Everyone should feel free to like what they like without persecution. But now Nintendo are jumping on the bandwagon of, hello little girls, why don't you have a pink 3DS? And also we'll show you these games which are for girls. Look, here's Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing is not a girls' game. A lot of Nintendo's games aren't boys or girl games. They're gender neutral. We're supposed to live in a society now where we promote our children to play with whatever they want, whatever makes them happy. Yes, you will pass people in the street who shout and hit their own male children for playing with dolls because it's going to make them gay. But life isn't like that. If you're going to be straight or gay, you're going to be straight or gay. Neither is wrong, neither is bad. Get with the program. If we're pushing gender onto games, we're attaching stigma to them. We already live in a society where so many children are playing Grand Theft Auto and killing each other at ridiculous ages, who've played so much Call of Duty that they know the difference between an AK-47 and an M16 assault rifle, where your 10-year-old can be pressured and bullied by other children because she doesn't play COD, because she isn't watching the latest horror film, she doesn't know who Freddy Krueger is. Why do we need to try and separate things into boy and girl and cool and not? Just stupid idea, Nintendo. Fix your online systems and just stop trying to tell people what they want. Listen to your audience. Watching the latest Nintendo Direct didn't make things any better for me. It was all a list of what they're going to bring out on the 3DS. What have we got to look forward to on the Wii U? Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Mario Kart, and a bunch of stuff that might come sometime when they can be bothered. Nearly every third-party company appears to have given up on the Wii U, and Nintendo's interest in the Wii U seems so half-hearted now. Why is anybody going to buy one? Yeah, I've got one sat downstairs in my house that I play on, but I'm a die-hard gamer. I am not your typical customer. You need to sell these things, guys. You actually need to do something to listen to your customers.
When I originally said all this stuff against Nintendo, I got a lot of hate for it. A lot of die-hard Nintendo fans really set into me. How dare I tell them what price they should sell things for? How dare I suggest that they don't do everything perfect? Their games are worth more than Sony's. They're better made than all of Sony's games. I still stand by everything I've said. I still think Nintendo is a company that tries to tell people what they want. And I still think they're stuck in the past. and that they need to update a lot of their infrastructure and ID schemes just to get on and become part of the modern gaming world. They're doing a fantastic job with the Switch as far as getting them out there, getting games made, but we haven't had Virtual Console yet, and it just does still feel like they're kind of on the back pedal from the competition. They are delivering these games that are strictly Nintendo only and have that Nintendo charm, but they just need to catch the rest of the business up to a sort of modern level while keeping what makes them fundamentally them.
Onto something else incredibly sad. Not long ago, the YouTube personality known as Jew Wario, a man called Justin Carmichael, well, he posted instructional videos in importing and playing Japanese video games on Western consoles. And I don't know, whether you've seen him or not, he was a brilliant entertainer. He helped people play things they otherwise never would have played. And unfortunately, he took his own life. It's hard to know what to say without going into massive philosophical conversations, but the guy had such a real passion for video games. I know I'm going to miss him, I'm sure lots of other people will miss him. Some people will claim they cannot understand why someone would take their own life. Others will feel more able to understand. Everyone will try to come to terms with it, to rationalise it, put a name on it, to diagnose it, but the truth is we'll never know why. If you've listened to some of the things that he said in the recent past, he clearly knew pain. He knew what it was like to feel low, to feel sad and to be depressed. Often when an individual feels low, they'll not know why, they'll not know how to explain it to someone else, but it's important that they realise they're not on their own. A quick thought that bears considering: 1 in 4 people experiences some kind of mental health problems in the course of a year. This could be anxiety or depression, they're the most common, or it could be all sorts of other things. If you know someone who's feeling a bit down, offer them a shoulder to cry on, somebody to talk to. And the same, if you feel down, there is people out there that will help you. There is people that care. I offer my condolences to his family, his loved ones and his friends, and I don't think the dude will ever be forgotten. He was a truly passionate gamer, and this hobby needs more people like that. We need more understanding and more people who aren't afraid to say what they think, what they feel, and to really bat for this hobby. Unfortunately, this industry's lost a real hero in that department.
It's kind of funny that the time when I find a bunch of file remnants of my old podcast is just after the whole Channel Awesome exploding incident. For those people that don't know, a load of ex-contributors of Channel Awesome dropped this big document online, which was a list of complaints focused at Channel Awesome. For those who don't know who Channel Awesome is, it's a website which hosts a guy called the Nostalgia Critic, which also hosted a lot of other content producers. Now, this document's quite heavy reading. There's allegations of a not very nice kind. It started a whole hashtag movement with Change the Channel, but for a long time it was sort of known that somebody in that environment had groomed fans and assaulted at least one person sexually. Over the years there's been sort of debates who it was, and due to the back and forth between the people criticising Channel Awesome and Channel Awesome responding, the name of the contributor that was dropped due to his behaviour was leaked, and it was Jew Wario. Now, this has made a lot of people feel very stupid, because a lot of people flocked to the net when he died with pictures, videos, podcasts and all kinds of things saluting the guy. People finished off his work, people donated money to depression charities, people gave the revenue from their own online activities to depression related charitable foundations. And a lot of people cried a lot of tears for this guy, whether they'd met him or not or just watched his videos. And it's sort of that way when anybody famous dies. We see people do it with pop stars, and this has left a lot of people feeling really stupid. And I guess I kind of do as well, because I talked in some really big language that, he was a hero for us, helping us play foreign games, pushing knowledge of these games, and, he was doing these awful, awful things, which obviously next to nobody knew about. It's got to be hard for people that finished his work, but for people who did nice things in his memory, who donated to mental health charities or did anything connected to depression, depression's a serious problem. Suicide's a serious problem. And just because this one guy happened to have done something bad, don't think what you've done's in vain, because the money you've given or the time you've given or just even talking about it and getting it out in the air, it might have saved somebody else. It might have saved somebody who hasn't done anything particularly bad, who does deserve the help. Personally, I'd find it very hard to watch his content now, and it would be very easy to basically say he was crap and he was rubbish, but it'd be untrue. Everybody has to make the decision for themselves about whether they can split the art from the artist, but I think if there's one thing to take away from this, it's essentially that there is no typical way somebody who commits these particular type of crimes looks or acts. People said that this guy was charming and that he'd do anything for you, and he was always smiling and he was always there to listen. So if anything, we've learned that not all people who commit sexual assault crimes are going to be horrendous looking cackling villains, and that's an important thing to remember. And I just hope that nobody takes away from this and thinks that anything they've done to help other people as a direct result of this guy's passing was in vain. Yeah, if you'd have known, you might not have done it, but if you went out there and donated time or money to a charity and tried to help other people, whether it was started by somebody you now consider a monster or not, just look at it for the good you did. Pull that away from him. He might have been the trigger, but you did something good. You helped people. I guess that's all I can say on this.
I said I was going to mention this, so I will. Some of you all know who he is in great interest. Some people won't. But Prince, or, the artist formerly known as Prince, the purple one, he's been suing his fans again. Apparently, people had recorded parts of his concerts and were passing bootlegs of them around. And, despite the fact that basically this promotes him, and this is people not being able to get enough of him, he's tried to sue them. Yet, maybe there's the argument that if people can hear him on some crappy cassette or on a YouTube download, they won't go and see his concert. But we all know that's different. A dodgy MP3 of a crackly recording of a concert is not going to replace a real lights, live music, stage performance. All this makes you look like, I'm saying that as if Prince is going to hear this, but all it makes him look like is an old-fashioned dick. Seriously. Add to the fact that he doesn't sing any of his dirty songs anymore. I wouldn't have brought this up. Apart from often we have a lot of piracy problems in video games. Going back to Nintendo again, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of R4 cartridges, super cards, all these kind of things that basically let DSs, DSIs, 3DSs play pirate video games downloaded off the internet, thereby avoiding paying for games. Well, recently, a particular brand of these, which I won't name for various reasons, partially I don't want to be responsible for telling people where to find them and stuff, they were being brought and used by people, A, to play pirate games, but also people were trying to use software on them which would then allow them to make their 3DS play foreign games, because the 3DS is region locked. Somehow, a combination of this illegal device, programming that wasn't intended for it, was causing 3DSs to be bricked. If you don't know what I mean by this, it was basically making them non-functional and ruining them, so you'd need to go buy a new one. Now, obviously Nintendo didn't care because you'd done something illegal, ha, your fault. Even though you were trying to get by what some people would call a stupid law, where they're region locking it and stopping you getting foreign games they don't intend to release here anyway. The company that made these cards kind of went tough tits, because you'd put software on that wasn't intended for the card. I can't help but think that this is all just feeding into people wanting to pirate more. If you go to Nintendo and they go, ha, something broke your console you shouldn't have been doing, does that make you feel any warmth to them? No, it makes you feel cheated. So surely that's going to make this person even more willing to play counterfeit games, because they're now stuck spending the money on a machine again that they otherwise might spend on games. It's a good one to think about, isn't it? But it also just shows another failure to understand. They don't understand the market. They don't understand that there's a certain percentage of people who want to buy bizarre games that haven't come out in this country. The PS Vita will play games from other countries. The PS3 will play games from other countries. As far as I know, Microsoft with the Xbox 360, it's left up to those countries to decide whether they region lock the games or not. Which brings a whole other issue to me. I was buying stuff from a Microsoft sale not too long ago, and in America a baseball game was on sale for $10, for example. I can't remember exactly how much. And I thought, wow, I'll see how much it is in pounds. But it wasn't for sale over here. But yeah, I couldn't download it because it was an American game. I can understand why you won't go to the trouble of printing cartridges, boxes, manuals for a game that you don't think is going to make money in a particular country. Fair play. The advertising, the promotion, the boxes, the cartridges or discs, that's a lot of money. But when a game is online, why not let anybody from any region download it if they have the money? It gives them more options. It isn't going to cost anything just to let someone from another country tick a box and give you money. Okay, I quickly was going to mention the fact that Tomb Raider has come out on the PS4 and Xbox One. Definitive editions. So it's a 6-month-year-old game given a polish. Well, they look decent, but most people are going to have completed it already. There is an issue there. How much can a company repolish the same game, sell it again, ask for top dollar? I could make a discussion about that, but maybe another time. What I want to focus on right now is the frame rate issues. The frame rate is better on the PS4 than the Xbox One, which has in itself started a whole fanboy thing where people are looking at display rates, frame rates for every game for PS4 and Xbox One, all as an excuse to pick at each other. Oh, we can run 60 frames per second at 110, 28, this, that and the other speed of screen resolution of... That means we're better than you. It's got to the point where it's like the Mega Drive and SNES playground taunting. Yes, people do like things to be smooth and shiny, but it isn't everything. Games should sell primarily on whether they're fun or not, whether you enjoy them, whether they make you think, whether they are a good pastime for you personally. Yet, rather than play more games and use their time efficiently, there's people who'd rather go on the internet and insult other people for their choice of product, for their opinion on games, But there's one more thing from this. MS apparently are patching their CPU to make it better. I don't get how they're patching it. Yeah, maybe a few strings of code to make it a bit more efficient or something. But this was being sold as something that would equal the playing field. I can't see how that's going to happen. I might be proved wrong, but here we stand. Anyway, I think that's about all I've got time for this time. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me. You might agree with the things I've said. You might hate what I've said. So feel free to contact me and let me know. Okay, thank you. Enjoy yourselves and enjoy gaming.